I asked my boyfriend for an open relationship because I wanted to date others. He accepted, but his new girlfriend turned out to be perfect, and now I regret it. I don't usually write on Reddit, but I feel I need an outside perspective because I think I made a decision without measuring the consequences, and now I don't know how to handle what I detonated. My name is Laura, I'm 26 years old. My boyfriend Jordan is also 26. We've been together since we were 19 when we both started college. We study dentistry. At that time, I loved the idea of sharing a career, a life plan, a routine that complemented each other. We were the typical college couple everyone considered stable, mature, and destined to last. In many ways, we were. Our relationship has been stable, almost without conflicts. We never had strong arguments or dramatic episodes. I think that's why something inside me started to get restless over the years. But I'll go by parts. We both graduated, but only he decided to practice. I worked for a while in clinics as an assistant, but I never felt completely satisfied. I didn't hate dentistry, but it didn't spark any emotion in me either. Meanwhile, my parents started expanding a small family restaurant business and asked me for support. I discovered it was something I enjoyed more: organization, administration, customer service, logistics. Besides, they paid me well and it was close to home, so I stopped practicing completely. Jordan never questioned it. He always respected my decision. He, on the other hand, did continue advancing in his career, received a very good opportunity working as an assistant for a quite recognized dentist in the city. The schedule was heavy, the patients were demanding, and he practically lived in that clinic, but he learned a lot. He had a clear goal: opening his own office. He'd talked about that since we were in college. Here comes the only serious conflict we've had in almost 7 years of relationship. A year ago, his workload increased so much that he was practically never available. I spent more time working at the restaurant, and when I got home he was already asleep, or if he arrived first, I fell asleep exhausted. Weekends he spent reviewing cases, taking courses, or accompanying the dentist he worked with. I started feeling like I lived with a ghost. Sometimes a whole week could go by without us having a real conversation. We talked about the topic one night. It was the only time I felt we were really about to break up. He said he was building our future, that opening his office would give us stability. I told him I understood his ambition, but he was forgetting about me, about us, and that a relationship couldn't be sustained only with good intentions. After that argument, he made changes, organized his schedule, reduced some tasks, asked for strategic breaks, and dedicated real time to the relationship. He didn't fix everything overnight, but he did improve, and I appreciated his effort. He really did. Months passed, and finally, a couple of months ago, he opened his office. I was very proud of him. I accompanied him on opening day, prepared details, helped with organization, and was even there several afternoons reviewing administrative issues. Everything had gone back to being stable, but although things were fine externally, internally I had a knot in my stomach I couldn't explain. I started questioning if I'd lived too much inside a single relationship. I was 26 and had been with him for 7. My friends, almost all single or with more unstable and free relationships, told me it wasn't normal, that I'd never experienced anything beyond him, that I was very young to be so committed, that stability could be deceptive. That maybe what I felt as love was habit, and that if I didn't ask myself these questions now, one day I could regret it when it was too late. I know I should have reflected more before letting myself be influenced, but at that moment, everything they said resonated with my internal fears. I saw my life as a straight line toward a future I hadn't questioned. It scared me to feel that maybe I was taking decisions simply by inertia. So a little over a month ago, driven by that uncertainty, I committed what I now consider a mistake. I proposed to Jordan to have an open relationship. I didn't say it as an ultimatum nor as a threat. I tried to approach it from emotional honesty, explaining I felt trapped between my love for him and the feeling of not having experienced anything else. I told him I didn't want to break up, but needed to explore, even if in a controlled and consensual way. He didn't react well. First, he froze. Then he said he didn't understand why I felt that he thought we were fine, that he didn't want to lose me. It took him a whole week to be able to look me in the eyes without annoyance. I kept insisting, trying to explain my doubts, my fears. It was a complicated process, but finally he accepted, although I don't know if he did it convinced or simply out of fear of losing me. We set basic rules: no mutual friends, not bringing anyone to the apartment we shared, communicating if seeing someone frequently, prioritizing the main relationship. At first, everything was strange. I thought both sides would take time to meet someone or simply have some unimportant date. But it wasn't like that. A week ago, Jordan told me he'd hired an assistant for the office. He's a dentistry student of 22 years old. Her name is Sophie. He described her as enthusiastic and diligent. I didn't think anything weird at that moment. It's normal for a new office to need young staff willing to learn. But a few days ago, I noticed something different in the way he talked about her. It wasn't explicit, but there was a tone of admiration. He said she was very efficient, that she understood everything quickly, that she had a lot of initiative. Then he commented she stayed after her shift to help him organize files or prepare material for the next day. I didn't give it importance. I thought he was just excited about his new office. Until one day, arriving at the apartment, he told me he'd gone out for coffee with Sophie after work because he had a heavy day. He said it naturally. But my heart tensed. I don't know why it bothered me, but it bothered me. Since then, he's gone out with her several times. He says they just talk, that he's getting to know someone as part of the agreement, that he's not doing anything outside what's permitted. But I feel uncomfortable. I never thought he'd be the first to find someone, and even less so quickly. I haven't gone out with anyone. I don't know if it's because I don't want to or because I don't find someone who sparks my interest, but he did, and not only that, he found someone who seems perfect in everything he values. Sophie is young, barely 22. Blonde, clear white skin, thin but with a toned body, probably with surgeries. I don't judge it, but it's evident. She's a student of the same career he loves. She likes learning, admires the work he does, and is directly involved in his most important project. She's the type of person who can grow with him in his professional field. I feel she is everything I don't have right now. It hurts to admit this, but I have real fear of having opened the wrong door. Before, he was insecure and angry with the idea. Now it seems he found something that fits better with where he is in his life. And I just watch how it happens without knowing how to stop it. I feel indignant, but also guilty, because I was the one who proposed the open relationship. I feel detonating this was my responsibility. I don't know if I should tell him I want to close the relationship or if it would be hypocritical to do so after insisting so much. I don't even know if he'd accept. Maybe he's already too involved with that girl. I need advice. Really, what am I supposed to do in a situation like this? Update. Hello again. I didn't think I'd be back so soon, but I'm completely destroyed, and I feel if I don't write, I'm going to lose my mind. I'm writing this at 2 a.m, crying with the light off and looking at old photos of when we started our relationship. I don't know how to process what happened today. First, I want to clarify something. In the previous post, many people insulted me. Not everyone, but enough for it to be clear that most think all this is my fault. They told me this happens to me for being promiscuous, for wanting to live adventures, for having ruined a good man. It was very hard reading so many personal attacks because I want something to be clear. I never did anything to be promiscuous. I never wanted to open the relationship to have sex with other people nor to experiment superficially. I did it because the idea of regretting it when it was too late terrified me. I know it sounds contradictory now, but when I decided to ask for an open relationship, I did it from a fear I didn't know how to manage. I didn't want to marry Jordan in a few years, have children, and discover at 35 that I missed living something and end up betraying him. My intention was never a betrayal. I wanted to prevent future damage, and in the process, I ended up causing immediate damage I never imagined. But it had nothing to do with seeking pleasure nor a promiscuous life. I just wanted not to regret something I didn't do, and now the only thing I regret is having asked for it. Having said that, I'm going to tell what happened today. I never thought I'd write something like this. Today I left the restaurant early. Things were calm, and I decided to go home, but while driving, I started thinking about Jordan. He'd been distant all week. We didn't fight, we didn't argue, but I felt him absent. I felt like doing something nice, something I used to do before without thinking. I prepared his favorite food and decided to take it to the office to surprise him. I wanted a simple, warm moment. I wanted to remind him I'm still here, that I'm still taking care of him. I didn't expect anything, just giving him his food, seeing him smile, hugging him for a minute. I arrived at the office. The main door was closed but not locked. It was strange because he always leaves the door ajar when he's working. Inside, almost everything was off. It seemed empty. I thought maybe he'd gone out to buy something and would return in a moment, or was asleep on the small sofa in the waiting room because he does that sometimes when he rests between patients. I entered very slowly without making noise. I carried the food in a thermal container, still hot. I didn't want to scare him, just wanted to see if he was okay. I walked down the hall and noticed the light in his small office, the one at the back and isn't part of the care area, was on. That office is where he reviews files, registers appointments, and organizes everything administrative for the office. I approached, thinking maybe he was concentrated working and didn't hear me enter. But when I approached completely, I heard a noise. Not steps, not the chair moving, it was something softer, more constant, a sound I couldn't identify at first. I stopped before knocking on the door. Something didn't add up. There's a small gap in the frame, a tiny space where light enters from inside. I don't usually look through there, but in that moment I did, almost without thinking, moved by a sensation I can't describe. And then I saw him. I saw Jordan kissing Sophie. They were standing very close to each other, as if the whole world had compressed around them. It wasn't a casual kiss, it wasn't a shy kiss, it was an intense kiss, full of desire, almost urgent. Jordan had one hand on her lower back, and the other was directly on her butt, squeezing it without any doubt. She was hugging him by the neck, and with her other hand was touching his crotch. All over clothes. Yes, but the intention was obvious, explicit, undeniable. I felt my stomach fall to the floor. I stood frozen, unable to move a single muscle. I don't know how long I stayed there. Maybe it was 5 seconds, maybe it was 30. I have no idea. I only remember my body reacted before my mind. I started crying. Not a loud cry, but a sob as silent as I could. But still something was heard, a trembling sigh, I think. Jordan heard it. He broke away suddenly, as if woken from a dream. He opened the door and found me there, eyes full of tears, holding the food in my hands as if I were a sad cartoon. He looked at me with very wide eyes, but didn't seem nervous. He seemed surprised, yes, but not ashamed, not guilty. Not like someone who got caught. Something inside me died in that second. The first thing he said was, "Hello, love. Why do you come like this without warning?" I couldn't even answer. I only managed to lift the food container and say, "I brought your favorite food. I thought we could have dinner together." My voice sounded completely broken. Sophie was behind him at the back of the office, with red cheeks. I don't know if from the situation or the intensity of the previous moment. She was clearly uncomfortable. Jordan looked at her and said with a soft tone, and calm down, "She and I have an open relationship. Remember I mentioned it to you?" Sophia tried to smile at me, although it was evident she felt exposed. "Yes, I know, but I'm a bit embarrassed you found us like this, although really it's a pleasure to meet you. You're a very mature woman, and how good you have such an open relationship." I didn't know what to say, just nodded, said thanks, and repeated I had to go. I don't even remember how I walked back to the car. I could barely breathe. When I got to the apartment, he sent me a message. It said, "I'm not coming to sleep today. We have to talk tomorrow." That was all. No explanation, no apology, nothing. And now I'm here with swollen eyes, reviewing again and again photos of when we were 20, when everything was so simple, so clean, so ours. I can't believe this is my life. I can't believe I provoked something I never thought could destroy us so fast. I don't know what he feels. I don't know if he's in love with her, if he's just excited with someone younger involved in his professional world, someone who sees him as a successful and admirable man. I don't know if I'm already left behind for him. I don't know if tomorrow I'll lose him forever. The only thing I know is I'm completely devastated. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to face what I saw. I don't know how to forgive myself for opening the door that allowed this. I just don't know anything. Update. I'm back. And although I'd like to say things improved, or at least there's clarity, the truth is what happened today left me even more confused, hurt, and emotionally exhausted. I promise this will be a version as objective as possible of what happened, although my hands tremble while I write. After the scene at the office and the message I received that night saying he wouldn't sleep at home, I couldn't rest a minute. I stayed in the apartment alone, crying until I lost my voice. I didn't understand anything. I didn't know if he was arriving in the morning, if we were going to talk, if this was the beginning of the end, or if we'd already reached the end without me processing it yet. But the next day, around 11 a.m., I heard the apartment door. I thought he'd enter rushed, worried, maybe with an apology prepared. I thought he'd sit with me, tell me, "I'm sorry for what you saw. It wasn't the right way. I understand your pain," something, anything. But he didn't. He entered as if nothing, as if he'd gone to work early and was returning from a usual routine. He looked relaxed, even calm. He looked at me and said with a completely normal tone, "Laura, we must talk about yesterday." My heart started beating hard. I prepared mentally to hear something that would heal the wound a bit, but what came out of his mouth was something I would have never imagined. "Let it be the last time you go without warning." You made her uncomfortable, and a lot. I felt a void so big in my chest that for a second I thought I was going to faint. I stayed silent. I didn't understand. I had no way to process it. "Is that serious?" I made her uncomfortable. I told him with a threat of voice. "How do you think I felt? I saw you touching her. I saw how you were kissing her. Tell me, when was the last time you kissed me like that? It looked like you wanted to eat her." He didn't react with guilt. He didn't even defend himself. He simply shrugged and said, well, what do you expect? The girl is hot, I like her, and I can't avoid it." That phrase felt as if someone stabbed something straight into my stomach. I didn't expect a white lie, but neither that cruelty so direct. He'd never spoken like that. Never. I didn't even know who the man in front of me was. I started crying. I couldn't control it. I covered my face with my hands, but tears fell without control. I asked him, still trembling, "How do you have the nerve to tell me she's hot? Why was your hand on your crotch? What was she touching?" He laughed. He laughed as if I were exaggerating, as if my emotions were a joke. "Well, what else could she be touching? What's wrong with it? We have an open relationship." I felt something break inside me, something deep, something that held the whole structure of what we once were. Yes, but that was too much. And I told him, crying harder, "Jordan, tell me what you did last night. I ask you, just tell me." He leaned on the table, crossed his arms, and looked at me as if I were a capricious child. "Look at you, you're already crying. If I tell you what she and I did last night, surely you'll cry for a whole week. I don't want to be putting up with that, so better stay with the doubt." The words hit me with violence I don't know how to describe. Everything inside me screamed. My head felt heavy, legs weak, stomach in knots. It wasn't just pain, it was humiliation. It was feeling the person I trusted for 7 years didn't have a trace of empathy for me. I told him between tears and rage, "You're an idiot, a degenerate. Damn you." I pushed him in the chest. Not to hurt him, but because I needed to put distance. I needed his body to stop being so close to mine. He held me by the wrists, not violently but firm to stop my pushes, and said with a tone he'd never used before, "What happened, love? Didn't you want an open relationship?" That phrase was the drop that finished collapsing everything. I was crying without control. I could barely inhale air. My mind hurt. I felt nausea, my hands trembled. And then something occurred that left me even more confused. He approached, lowered his tone of voice and said, "Now, my life, if you want, let's de-stress a while. You're tense. Come, I know what you like." Before I could analyze what was happening, he started kissing my neck. His hands began to travel my back, my waist. It was a familiar contact, but loaded with something strange, as if he wanted to dominate the situation, as if he wanted to show me he still had power over me. For a few seconds I stopped crying, or rather I stood paralyzed. My body reacted by habit, not desire. It was as if for an instant I'd forgotten everything that happened. It was automatic, instinctive, but suddenly an image crossed my mind. Sophie touching him, kissing him, her hand on his crotch, the way he looked at her. That thought hit me so hard I recovered control. I pushed him hard. Hey, no, I don't want this. I can't stop thinking you did this with your assistant, I told him between sobs. You're an idiot. I don't want an open relationship nor closed nor anything. I'm leaving. He looked at me with a mix of sarcasm and tiredness, as if I were the only responsible for this situation. Oh, Laura, but wasn't this supposed to be what you wanted? I didn't answer. I went to the room. I took my keys, my wallet, and a couple of essential things in a bag. I didn't care about anything else. I left the apartment crying without knowing where to go exactly. I only knew I needed to be far from him, far from the office, far from this whole nightmare. He didn't follow me, didn't try to stop me, didn't write to me later. The only thing he did was stay there laughing, as if I were making unnecessary drama, as if my pain were an excess, an exaggerated reaction to something that in his mind I myself had authorized. And now I'm here. Several days have passed since that moment. We haven't spoken. He hasn't sent me a single message. Nothing. Complete silence. I don't even know if he's with her, if he's living in the office, if he returned home at some point. I don't want to go verify, I don't want to know. The only thing I know is I feel empty, completely empty. I don't recognize my life, I don't recognize Jordan. And I don't know if I recognize myself either after allowing things to reach this point. I don't know what my next step will be. I don't know if I'll write again, but I needed to leave this here because I feel I'm crumbling and I don't have anyone to tell it to without feeling shame. That's all for now. Update. 2 months have passed since everything happened, and although I'm still in the process of healing, I feel a part of me keeps trying to understand what really happened. I won't lie, it still hurts. Sometimes I wake up thinking everything was a bad dream. Other times I blame myself for having started something I didn't know how to handle. I know I had responsibility in how it all started, but it's still hard for me to understand how Jordan changed so fast, in such a drastic way, so alien to the person I knew for 7 years. Because before all this, he never showed that side, never was cold, never was cruel, never was someone who enjoyed humiliating or provoking. And what confuses me most now is recognizing that maybe that side was always there and I simply hadn't seen it. Or maybe it appeared when the situation allowed it. I don't know. That doubt is what has taken me the most emotional work. And now comes the weirdest part. What made me come back to write this update although I thought I wouldn't. Today, a few hours ago, Jordan posted a photo on his Instagram, a photo I still struggle to process. He's in the middle, hugging 2 girls, one on each side. The 3 people pose as if they were a couple, or rather an official trio. In the description he wrote, "Let no one tell you how to live your life. Love can also be shared. #polyamory #love." I saw it twice to make sure I wasn't imagining. Apparently, he discovered a lifestyle that now excites him, something that maybe not even he knew attracted him, or that simply didn't arise until that door was opened. I don't know how to feel. Part of me is surprised. Another part asks if all this was already inside him. Another part feels a pang of sadness for what could have been if things had gone down a different path. And another part, the one I try to strengthen most, simply accepts this has nothing to do with me anymore. I suppose this situation left me a hard but necessary lesson. Opening a door without knowing where it leads can change everything, not just for oneself, but also for the other person. And sometimes that change is irreversible. I'm moving forward slowly, but moving forward. I'm rebuilding myself. It still hurts, but I'm no longer paralyzed. And if I take something from all this, it's that never again will I make an important decision from fear, only from clarity. That's all. I hope this is the last time I write about this.